Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 or lesson 2 of a medallion that we started yesterday. This is the completed medallion that we're making again. The thickness of the thread is a little bit different on these two, so we might run into a little problem when we're joining and completing the circle, but that doesn't really matter because when you wash it and dry it stretched, it'll just fall into place. Sometimes before we wash things, they look really bad, but we'll be fine by the time we're done. So we needed, that's the pattern I wrote and the lousy picture that I drew. We need 9 rounds. And here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's get the 8th one done. This is the chain. Oops, off camera. I'm very sorry. And pulling it tight, making the knot. And this, if you remember, is just like tying your shoe. Nothing special about this knot. And then we flip it over. The other thing that I want to point out as well, when I was learning to tat, I had difficulty knowing what side I should be looking at, especially if you walk away and you come back 3 or 4 days later or 3 months later. It's hard to figure out where you were. The rings are facing up when it's time to make a ring. When it's time to make a chain, the chains are up. That is something that I was never taught, and I wish I had known that, because since I figured that out, a simple thing like that, it would have saved me a lot of grief. So the other thing that I did today, which is something different, is I'm going to move you here. I took a paper towel holder and put my thread on it so that I don't have to worry about my ball of thread going everywhere. So I hope you don't get motion sickness. I put you back on my stand. All right. So now I've got all kinds of thread here because I was showing off my little invention from earlier today. All right. So there we have it. We just finished the chain. So now we need to flip it over. And we're going to be doing the 8th ring. Let me double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, the 8th ring. So if you remember, this is a refresher for you. Over my finger and around, see the X? Grab it, pull it really snugly against the chain. Then the second part of it is coming back over and grabbing your thread that way. Then I like to take the needle thread and just hold it away from my work. So that was stitch 1. We need 5 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have a join to the previous ring. I'll usually slip my stitches to the end of the needle so that it's easier to get that stitch. That picot is the one we want to join with. And I've got that. It does not count as 1 stitch because we just slipped it on our needle. 1. Get that out of the way. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then the big picot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm sliding my work further up my needle just because I need more space. And now the small picot, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we need to close this ring, and you'll remember from last night, well, it was last night for me, we don't want the needle thread to be pulled through because we're making a ring. So I pull the thread nice and slow so I don't get a tangle there. And there's the loop. Now I noticed on the very first one I made, this loop had twisted around like that, and it gave me problems. So that's something to be aware of, that you're just going to go through and hold the loop the way it really wants to be. And then I pull through to close my ring. Tug on that, make sure it's really nice and tight before you tie your simple knot. There we go. Now, this will be the second last chain that we make. I'm putting my needle, buttoning it up right over the knot. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we've got the 3 picots to make. So a small one, 1, 2, then the large one, 1 and 2, and another small one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we don't want to catch our loop because we're making a chain and not a ring or a round. It's known as both, I believe. Yank on that so I get a nice arch. Tie my simple knot. Oops. And now it's time for our very final ring. Let's count this and make sure. You can never count too many times with tatting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now we're going to make our 9th ring. So flipping it over so that my rings are going north. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we join to the last picot of the previous ring. And there it is. And then we do our next 5 and a large picot. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Large picot. When you're working too close to the end of your needle, sometimes when you try to grab the thread, it just pops off the tip. easy fix is just to slide everything up your needle a little bit. So there's the large picot. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Normally, we would have done our join, 5, large picot, 5, and a small picot, and 5 to finish the ring. But because we want to close our ring now so that we have a circle, we need to join the first picot of the first ring. And that is 5, join, 5, large picot, 5, join, and 5. And that makes the very last ring. So this can be awkward if you let it, but we're better than that. So I'm going to grab not this picot, because this is the large one at the top. I'm going to grab the first picot of that round in the same way that I grabbed the other. And then I do my 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and whoops. And 5. Now we have to close this ring in the same way we close all the other rings. And we grab that so that it's the right way. And we pull tight. It's a little trickier this time. And we make our final knot to close our last ring. And there you have it. But let me stop moving here so you can focus and see. What we do need is that final chain from here back to there so that it looks like all the others. So what we're going to do again is flip our work, needle thread on the right, ball thread on the left. I remembered that I made a mistake at the very beginning of the previous video when I said the ball thread's always on the right, and then a minute or two later I corrected that mistake. But just so that it's clear, the ball thread is always to the left and the needle thread is always going off to the right. So let's do a regular chain, same as we always have. Keeping it, this one is trickier though, to keep it butted to the previous knot. So 1, whoop, I have a twist. So let's take that off the needle. I need to hold my thread away. So now we've got 1 complete. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we need to duplicate all the other ones with a small picot, 2, a large picot, 1 and 2, and another small picot. 1, 2, 3, 4, whoops, and 5. Now, we are going to pull this off the needle in the normal way for a chain. Tighten it up. Now, we need to bring this to there. And the way we're going to do that is just stick our needle. We can go either through this big hole of the ring, or we can just get inside a stitch. There, I've picked up a little bit of thread, and I'm going to go through and pull that in so that it looks like the others. And then I'm going to tie a knot. This time I'm going to tie a really good strong knot. I'll do a double knot. Just to keep it from fraying. There we go. Now, if you've ever knit or crocheted, you know about sewing in your ends. We are done with the ball thread. I'll leave enough thread there that I've got enough to work on easily. What I did when I was a beginner was I would tie that double knot like I just did, and I would drop a drop of glue onto it, and then I would just cut my cords, my strings really close. That works if you're doing a large piece of doily that's got many rings. So if I was to do a doily, I would then, the pattern would tell me to do whatever, and then you join it to whichever one. The pattern will tell you where to join it. And so you would do a ring and always grabbing the picot from the previous ring, and that's how you make doilies. You just many circles. Every piece that you do is another circle that's done exactly like the first one. I'm not going to bother sewing in my ends on camera, but just so you get an idea, with the needle, sometimes you want a smaller needle than this one. You would just weave in the ends into a couple stitches. You don't have to go crazy and do many. I find that 3 stitches is plenty. This is not something that's being worn. It's not something that's going to be washed every week. This needle is too big for me to get into these without changing the look of the whole medallion. So there you have it. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to contact me right on YouTube. I'll check the comments. If you have any questions, I definitely will answer them as soon as I see them. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you learned anything at all, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I'm going to do earrings next. I have to make the other earring of this one. That'll be my next video. And then I'm not sure how many tatting videos I'll have up, but that'll be what we're doing. So please subscribe, and you'll get notified next time I post something. Thanks for watching, and be kind.